Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa van Dijk and in today's video I'm going to show you how food affects breakouts. And I want to get right away into what happened to me when I moved to Thailand because it is actually very interesting. And to explain this, I need to go a step back so it all makes sense, especially for those of you who have not been following my community tab recently or are new to my channel. So back in Europe, I had managed to get my acne under control with dietary and environmental changes. And my skin was clear after years of struggling with constant breakouts. And because I finally had it under control, I wanted to see what would happen if I changed my environment and my food sources entirely. I had changed locations in Europe a few times, and the food changed slightly, although it was still mostly centered around the same sources. But during that time, I could already see some differences, which made me curious. So this move is a great opportunity to test my personal daily skin research, which I have been doing for 1.5 years now on myself without skipping one day. And since many of you watching are from India, the Philippines, Pakistan, Malaysia or the surroundings, I think it can be very useful, so you know what to look at. Now I just started here, and after only 1.5 weeks I can already see how it affects my digestion and my skin. Sadly, so far only in a negative way. So for this video I want to go over the diet I had back home in Europe and then share the transition I made here in Thailand and how my skin changed from being completely acne free to a full flare up of my face, back and chest, which I have not seen in over 7 months. So back in Europe, my face looked mostly clear. Of course, I had the occasional pimple, sometimes on my chin, sometimes on my nose or cheek, and rarely on my forehead. But I did not have any flare-ups for the last 7 months. So I managed to keep it nearly entirely clear with the diet I also shared in my community tab here on YouTube. My food was centered around the foods you see there. So I start my mornings with eggs in different forms, like omelette, scrambled or stuffed. On the side I had bacon or avocado and sometimes sheep milk yogurt. When in season I added cherry tomatoes or blueberries. On some days I had a sourdough bread roll with cheese, ham, tomato, lettuce or avocado. And sometimes just plain sheep yogurt or yogurt with blueberries. Now for lunch and dinner I mostly had minced meat, usually pork, beef or lamb. Occasionally I had a fish or chicken. And on the side I often added feta cheese, a sheep milk yogurt dip and vegetables like cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, potatoes, lettuce or lentils. And I rotated them for variety. Now the reason I used minced meat was because it was cost effective and I could get fresh cuts minced directly from the butcher. Over time I also figured out that minced meat was easy on my stomach and made me feel less tired, which I often felt before with other whole cuts of meat. So alongside the base, I also had some comfort foods. On some evenings, usually about once a week, I had a salami pizza, always the thin and crunchy one from Domino's. For snacks, I often had simple homemade butter cookies or cake, which you can also find on my channel. And occasionally, I had a cinnamon roll from a trusted local bakery, always one made with butter. And that was essentially it for my meals back in Europe. So now I want to move on to my move to Thailand and how the food shifted. And to be honest, even though I had done some research in advance about the markets, I really did not know how it would be in reality. I mean, if you search on Google or even ask ChatGPT, you always end up with some half-truths, but it's still a good starting point and very useful. So with the information I gathered, I started buying food from street stores and local restaurants. At first, I was really careful with fruit and only bought the ones with a hard shell or that I could peel, because I had learned that supermarket food was one of the biggest triggers for my acne. I assumed this was because of pesticides and post-harvest treatments, because whenever I bought food directly from local organic farmers that did not use any of these treatments, I had no issues. So I thought, let us put this to the test here as well. I started with pad thai, which is often recommended on television or in those articles where it constantly ranks amongst the healthiest dishes in the world. So I gave it a go right away. And from a delicious point of view, that is definitely true. It's very basic, but it tastes incredible. And at first, everything seemed fine. Then I saw people grilling on the streets everywhere, very early in the morning, like 5 o'clock. And I thought, well, that is great, so I tried that one too. My breakfast then centered around grilled meat, mostly pork skewers. I also had some fruit or a coconut or sometimes a big dumpling with meat inside. For lunch and dinner, I mostly ordered from local stores or went to the fresh markets. I ate mostly rice because potatoes are rare here unless you eat curry, where I have seen them a lot. The dishes were usually topped with basil, cucumber, young onions and sometimes soy sprouts. I found it particularly interesting because it was exactly the type of food I could eat back home without any breakouts. And because I did not experience any breakouts, I started adding local seafood, like clams, shrimps and also chicken. At first, everything still seemed fine. So I went ahead and added different fruit. I even snacked on it and felt more comfortable eating different foods from the markets and delivery apps like Grab. And then the problem started. I began getting really bad circles around my eyes and I felt drained a lot, especially in the morning. Like I already told you what happened to me with the leafy greens back in Europe. I mean, yes, the extreme heat here can be a factor too, because the climate here is tropical, but my digestion also went completely down the hill and I'm sure it is the food. I constantly had issues and that lasted until today, although it has improved somewhat and I feel less drained. But still, the circles are there a bit, as you can see, and my skin shows the same. There are not many breakouts and it's not just my face, it's also the back and my chest, as you can see in the pictures on the screen. I am more than certain that it is the food that is causing the breakouts. And it also makes me kind of happy that it is, because it goes right into the direction of actually solving the issue with food for good. What I will do now is go back to a similar diet I had before, trying to carefully recreate it here in Asia. And this time with rice included, because that's the main staple here. Potatoes are available too, but I want to keep it more centered around rice and how people actually eat it here. And I will be back with updates in my community tab or new videos soon about how things are going. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.